What a day we have had. Yes, good evening to you. Close of play, end of the match. It was a tense and highly entertaining, absorbing final day of the women's test in Bristol. Ultimately, a draw. England thought they had India where they wanted them at tea. India had been asked to follow on, remember, and a collapse of 4 for 18 in the middle of the day saw the visitors slump to 243 for 8 at tea with a second innings lead of only 78. But a lower order rally orchestrated by Sneh Rana saved the match for India. She made 80 not out, putting on an unbeaten stand of 104 for the 9th wicket with Tanya Bhatia, which has turned out to be the highest stand of the innings. England had started to turn the screw with wickets either side of lunch. Ecclestone and Siva combined to take 1 wicket before and 2 after, and that started an Indian slide. There were some questionable shots in that time, but Ecclestone, who took 4 wickets in the second innings, 8 in the match, always looked threatening. India were 171 for 2 at the point when Deepti Sharma tried to heave Ecclestone into the leg side. She missed and was bowled for 54. That was a key moment and brought an early lunch. Soon after the break, Mithali Raj was bowled by a quicker delivery from Ecclestone for just 4. Ecclestone then caught Poonam Raut at square leg off Natalie Siva for 39. It was quite a tame dismissal. The pull went straight to Ecclestone, and India had lost 3 wickets for just 4 runs. That became 4 wickets for 18 runs when Vastrikar, promoted up the order, was bowled by Heather Knight for 12, looking for a sweep. Ecclestone's 4th wicket in the innings came when Harmanpreet attempted to sweep a fuller delivery, and a top edge was gobbled up by Amy Jones. She was out for 8. And at that point, England started to be held up, searching for the 8th wicket, and there was a stand of 41 between Sneh Rana and Shikhar Pandey. That started to become worrying for England, particularly when they used up their last review and Catherine Brunt looked to have a painful left ankle not long after the second new ball had been taken. But Siva had Pandey caught down the leg side shortly before tea. That was a really deserved wicket because she'd had really parsimonious bowling figures up until that point, building pressure at one end. And so at tea, well, there was a minimum of 40 overs left in the match in the evening session. India were 8 down and the lead was only 78. But that was when Sneh Rana, who was 27 not out at the interval, really set about moving up a gear, and she stroked that unbeaten 80, play continuing into the last hour despite neither side being able to win at that point. But India's lead was already 178 when the last hour began. Eventually the umpires called time, probably for the light, and India were 344 for 8 following on a lead of 179. Sneh Rana unbeaten on 80 and Bhatia with her on 44. A fine rearguard end of innings stand that saved the match for India, meaning 2 points apiece to kickstart this multi-format series, because there are still 3 one-day internationals and 3 T20s to come. And if this test match hasn't whetted your appetite for that, then nothing will. Let's bring in former England World Cup winner Alex Hartley and former India international Snehal Pradhan. Snehal, I'll come to you first because, goodness me, what a fluctuating day. India's fortunes going one way and then the other. What do you make of that final stand and India securing the draw?
Absolutely. It started with Shafali Verma and Deepti Sharma, their resistance batting so well. Then once again a collapse, once again no contributions from some of these vaunted batters. Mithali Raj, Harmanpreet Kaur not able to make an impact with the bat. And then this younger generation of batters, this lower order really orchestrating the rear guard. It was wonderful to see. It was. And like I've said before, we're seeing different styles of batting from this Indian lineup, because we have players spanning, some of them who have been playing for 20 years and some who weren't even born 20 years ago and who have learned their game really grown up watching the IPL. And it's provided us entertainment, it's provided us intrigue. I think the biggest takeaway is the resilience of the Indian batters and the fact that they just did not give in and continued to play positively even when the chips were down.
Alex, how are England going to feel ultimately at the end of this match, do you think?
I think frustrated. They got themselves into such a brilliant position to win the test match, and India would just fantastic with the bat today and battled. It was a true battle between bat and ball all day. So yes, they'll be frustrated, but when they look back on this test match at the end of the series, that was genuinely the best test match I've seen, because both teams were in the game throughout. We even thought at one stage India could get ahead of England when Shafali Verma and Mandana were at the crease in the start of their first innings. So it's truly been a test match that has given us everything and anything we could have wished for. But yeah, the England girls will be very frustrated.
So why was it they weren't able to get those last couple of wickets? What changed after tea?
I think after tea they were just trying a little bit too hard. They were searching for wickets, bowling the ball just slightly short. We could see Sophie Ecclestone was tiring, started bowling short and into the pitch. And it's not really a wicket-taking option when the pitch is old. It's used, the ball's turning away. So they just didn't quite get their lines and lengths right. But credit to Sophie Ecclestone, bowling 60-odd overs. It's something that she's never had to do before. It's something that a lot of these girls have never had to do before. So it's no wonder they were tiring towards the end. But yeah, India were fantastic today.
Yeah, Sophie Ecclestone, 4 wickets in this innings, 4 in the first. We were looking at 10-wicket hauls in women's tests, weren't we, at one stage, because she looked the most threatening and looked to be on a real roll. Snehal, and if we look at the match as a whole, but perhaps just focus on this second innings today. I mean, the dismissal of Deepti Sharma was that which then triggered the middle order collapse, wasn't it? And what happened in that instant? Because she was 54 not out. She'd really been playing a very restrained innings at that point, and then tried to heave Ecclestone into the leg side to be bowled.
Yeah, I have this theory, and it may fit why we see so many late evening collapses in the third session in women's tests, why we've seen that happen in this test match in the first couple of days, that especially the Indians who are playing test cricket after so long and who have gone into this game with no warm-up games. England, remember, played a 3-day inter-squad warm-up game, but India having no experience of this volume, I think they're essentially learning how to use muscles they didn't really know they had. They're learning how their bodies and their minds are reacting after you've been at the crease, not for 10 overs or not for 20 overs, but for 50 overs, and then what kind of decisions you start thinking about making and how you need to almost stop yourself from making those decisions. I think that's what happened with Deepti Sharma. So correct, so immovable. She looked so organized and unperturbed by any of the bowlers until she attempted a few of those bottom-handed slogs, which, to be fair, are her pet shots in limited overs cricket. So it's just about almost denying that part which seeks that instant gratification for this wonderful format, which is a format of delayed gratification, and the Indians especially are learning how to do that. Smriti Mandhana also getting out for 78, she'll be kicking herself because that wasn't the kind of shot that she's known for. And it's getting to that stage where you're wondering, what am I supposed to do in this phase, learning along the way, and we're seeing different results of that. Sneha Rana had absolutely no option but to bat on, and that's exactly what she did.
Yeah, with Deepti, it was almost one of those, if I could invoke commentator Fazir Mohammed, one of those, why did she do that moments. But as you said, everyone, when it's been like 7 years since India last played a test match and last played England, that, yeah, these players are learning on the job, absolutely. There were some particular moments. Catherine Brunt's catch to dismiss Shafali Verma, Alex, that was a key moment in the first session that you thought, right, this is opening up the innings for England. And just talk us through why her catch was such a good one.
Yeah, it was a brilliant catch. Catherine Brunt is 36 years old, and she just gets in the battle, and it was always going to take something special to get Shafali Verma out, and it was a full toss from Sophie Ecclestone, and Shafali Verma's eyes lit up and she just didn't quite get hold of the ball, the bat twisting in her hands as she made contact, and Catherine Brunt's at long on. She's not quite read the ball properly, and as she's read it just last minute, she's had to run. She's run about 10-15 yards and dived to her left hand side, which is not her strong side, and taken an absolute worldie of a catch, and one of the best catches I've seen this summer.
We saw her clutching her left ankle at times. I hope that's nothing too serious for for Catherine Brunt. It's going to take a little bit of recovery for all of these players, I'm sure, before the one-day element of this series starts. We'll find out player of the match in due course, but candidates, I mean, Eccleston taking wickets in both innings. There was Heather Knight's 95, Sneh Rana, of course, saving the match, and twin 50s for Shafali Verma. What are your thoughts, Snehal?
I think I'm probably going to go with Shafali Verma, and the reason is that she's a debutant picked to probably the most difficult job in Test cricket, that's open the batting in England. She's up against two of the best swing bowlers there have been in cricket, in Shrubsole and Brunt, and we saw with some beautiful dismissals that both of them are very much on top of their game. Up against a team where they're vastly more experienced in the Test format, and really it is the pace that she played at. It's not just the runs that she made, but the pace that she played at, which has, I think, laid the bedrock for this extremely entertaining Test match that we've seen. We've discussed on here, it's not been like previous Test matches which have really been accused of just sagging from time to time. This game has always either moved deeper or forward, and that's largely, I think, to the tempo that Shafali Verma has set. And so Sneh Rana, I'm really happy for her. Sophia Dunkley did so well, Heather Knight, Sophie Eccleston, but for me Shafali Verma is my pick.
And your pick, Alex?
Yeah, Shafali Verma for me, but what is exciting is we're having a discussion on who our player of the match is, and quite often in women's Test match there's been a standout. You know, there's been somebody that's got wickets, got runs, and no one else has really done anything. So the fact that we can have these conversations, that we've got people in the England camp getting runs, Heather Knight 95, Nat Siver chipping in, Tammy Beaumont, Sophia Dunkley on debut getting 74, and then we've had Sophie Eccleston bowl the longest spell of her life, and picking up 9 wickets in the game, and Shafali Verma on debut. You know, it is really hard to look past her because she was breathtaking to watch, and yeah, she's my player of the match.
Yeah, Sophie Eccleston, 26 overs, 5 maidens, 4 for 88 in first innings. Sorry, that's second innings as well. Is it 4 for 88? Have we got Phil with us to confirm that?
I'm here, Alison.
Hello,
yes,
Phil. Sophie
yes.
Eccleston's bowling figures. 4 for 118, wasn't it, in the second?
That's right, 4 for 118. And as we've been mentioning, you know, it's a huge spell. England asked India to follow on, so those 2 innings weren't split. So she bowled through 2 innings. Those second innings figures. 38 overs, 10 maidens, 4 for 118. Unfortunately, they were the most expensive in England Test history and women's Test history. Her match figures: 64 overs, 15 maidens, 8 for 206. In terms of runs, they were the second most expensive in women's Test history. But it's the 8 wickets, and it's all about taking wickets, and that was, I think, the thing that England carry on trying to do through the afternoon. I don't know if you want one or two more little bits, Ali, while I'm here on the numbers.
Yeah, very briefly, because I do want to get a quick word in the next minute or so from Alex and Snehal, just to wrap up the pitch situation.
Very, very quickly then. What a game for the debutantes. 2 50s for Shafali Verma, Deepti Sharma 54, Rana there at the end 80 not out, denying England. It seems a while ago now. Sophia Dunkley's 74 not out. India's second innings, we sort of didn't really dwell on this too much, but it was the 3rd highest score in a second innings in a women's Test match. You know, they really dug in to save this match, and both teams will take 2 points as we carry on into the white ball.
Yep, indeed we will. Thank you very much, Phil, for that. Snehal and Alex, and I do want to get then, let's wrap up the conversation that had been had at the start of the match about the pitch, because we've had a highly entertaining game. I suppose you can have a used pitch, but not necessarily an underprepared pitch. But it's the principle of the matter, is it not?
Yeah, I think for me, there's been a lot of talk about the pitch played absolutely fine, and it did. The pitch was absolutely fine. We saw a little bit of turn at lunch on day 1, which isn't ideal, but there wasn't anything wrong with the pitch, and I can't criticise that. But what I can criticise is the principle. It would never happen in a men's game, therefore why on earth has it happened in a women's game? And you just sort of start to question things on well, do the ECB or whoever makes these decisions, are they all for Test match cricket? Because, you know, for me it's bang out of order, but they've said it'll never happen again, so that's the good thing that's come out of it.
Snehal, ultimately this match served up an absolute treat.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of points around the discussion of the pitch. Like Alex said, it is a question of principle, and also the fact that this match has been scheduled in such a way that it overlapped with the World Test Championship final. Now, as it happened, the focus was really on Bristol thanks to the weather in Southampton, but you could easily have had a performance like this completely overshadowed maybe by a Virat Kohli double 100 in another circumstance. So that's the kind of planning that you probably need to be very proactive at. And like Ali, you've mentioned before, England have been pretty good in the past of making sure that men's and women's fixtures don't really overlap like that, because there is a common audience, there is a cricketing audience who wants to watch both their teams, both in England and in India. So that's probably the main takeaway from me, that these things need to be handled with a lot of care if we want this format to grow.
Now, before we leave here, we can get some reaction from the women's test from England captain Heather Knight, and she's been having a chat with Henry Moran.
How are your emotions after a frustrating final day?
Yeah, it was very frustrating, and I think we tried really hard to try and force a result. I think probably we're trying to search for it a little bit too much. We obviously were running a little bit out of time. So yeah, it is what it is. I'm really pleased with how the girls stuck in there and really tried on what was quite a dead pitch.
The game is 4 days. There is more and more of an argument, isn't there, for a 5-day test match for women's cricket?
100%. I think so many games have ended in a draw, and obviously rain and a little bit of slow play didn't help our cause. It meant we basically just ran out of time a little bit. But yeah, I'd love to play a 5-day test. I think that maybe could be the way forward. Obviously we're playing 100 overs a day, and unfortunately they didn't quite get fulfilled every day. But yeah, I think that's a great idea.